The photos slipped from my trembling fingers, scattering across the cold floor. Betrayal stared back from every image, mocking the vows we'd once made. My heart raced violently, grief and anger colliding in my chest as reality unfolded brutally before me. Emily, my wife, my confidant, captured in moments of passion with another man. Each photo a silent accusation, undeniable and cruel. Trust evaporated instantly, leaving behind only raw, exposed emotions I could scarcely control. I stood in silence, understanding clearly for the first time that love had limits, trust had boundaries, and I had unknowingly reached the edge of both. Now, choices lay before me, choices that would either break me completely or forge me anew. It started one ordinary Thursday evening at our dining table. Emily sat across from me, unusually quiet, pushing her salad around with disinterest. Her blonde hair, normally neat, fell in careless strands around her thoughtful expression. "Michael," she began gently, eyes flickering upward, "I got an invitation to a high school reunion in Springfield next weekend." The fork paused halfway to my mouth. Springfield, the place Emily left behind, rarely mentioned since we married. I watched her closely, trying to interpret the unspoken words behind her calm facade. "Are you thinking of going?" I asked cautiously, setting my fork down. She hesitated slightly, then nodded. "I think so. I've been feeling exhausted lately, Michael. Work has become overwhelming and reconnecting with old friends might do me good." Though her reasoning sounded harmless, a strange tightness twisted inside me. Still, Emily deserved rest. She'd always prioritized her career and our relationship above all else. "Of course," I finally said, mustering a supportive smile. "If it helps you relax, you should go." Relief flooded her face, quickly masked by gratitude. "Thanks. It means a lot to me." Later that evening, I lay awake, staring into the darkness. My mind churned uneasily. Emily had seemed eager, perhaps too eager for this reunion. Or was I simply being paranoid? Our marriage was built on openness and trust, but lately we'd both been absorbed by our routines. Perhaps this weekend would be exactly what she needed. I forced away the unsettling feeling, deciding it was merely fatigue and stress talking. The next morning, Emily's mood brightened noticeably as she packed for her trip. I noticed she chose clothes I hadn't seen her wear in years, more vibrant, youthful outfits that emphasized her femininity. "You haven't worn these in ages," I commented lightly, observing her carefully fold a silk blouse. She paused briefly, a nostalgic smile curving her lips. "It's funny, isn't it? Going home makes me feel young again." Her words lingered as she left for work, leaving behind a hint of perfume, unfamiliar, floral, and unsettlingly fresh. Standing alone, I stared at the closed door, feeling an inexplicable sense of foreboding. Despite my rationalizations, something felt off. I shook my head, trying to dismiss the doubt. Emily deserved this break. After years of dedication, she owed herself one carefree weekend. Yet as I stood quietly in our empty hallway, I couldn't shake the troubling thought that perhaps, unknowingly, we had already begun drifting apart. The weekend Emily spent away felt endless. Our house, usually warm and inviting, became a hollow shell without her presence. The silence was deafening, amplifying the uncomfortable doubts that had crept into my mind. When Sunday finally arrived, I found myself waiting anxiously at the airport, scanning each arriving passenger. When I saw her, my heart skipped. She seemed different, subtly transformed. Her hair fell loosely around her shoulders, and she wore an unfamiliar navy coat, stylish and flattering, emphasizing a vibrant confidence that hadn't been there before. "Hi," she said softly, stepping forward into my hesitant embrace. "You look great," I said truthfully, feeling awkwardly cautious. "Did you have a good time?" She smiled lightly, avoiding direct eye contact. "It was wonderful, really refreshing." It felt good to reconnect. As we drove home, she gazed thoughtfully out the window, clearly lost in private memories. The space between us filled with an unfamiliar quiet. Over the next days, Emily's transformation became clearer. She chose brighter clothes, spent extra time on her appearance, and checked her phone constantly, smiling privately at texts she didn't share. Each evening, she seemed more distracted, distant in ways I'd never experienced. One night, I finally asked her gently, "Is everything okay, Emily? You seem a bit different since the reunion." Her eyes flicked briefly toward mine, mildly defensive. "Different? How?" "You're quiet, distant," I explained, careful to keep my voice soft. "Did something happen?" She sighed, forcing a smile. "No, Michael. I'm just tired from work, that's all." I nodded, pretending to accept her explanation. Yet unease gnawed at me persistently. Something deeper had changed within her. The reunion had sparked something I wasn't part of, and it frightened me. Later that evening, Emily stepped away to take a call. Her hushed voice filtered down the hallway, tone warm and familiar. My chest tightened instinctively. Curiosity got the better of me, and I quietly moved toward the bedroom door, catching snippets of her conversation. "Yes, I'll see you soon," she whispered affectionately, her tone soft, almost intimate. My pulse raced. Who could prompt such a tone from her? I retreated quickly before she noticed, feeling ashamed of my suspicion, yet unable to silence it. When Emily returned to the living room, she smiled absently, sitting beside me as though nothing had occurred. "Who was that?" I asked, feigning casual interest. "Just Sarah from high school," she replied without hesitation, her eyes flickering away from mine. I felt instantly convinced she was lying. That night, sleep eluded me again. My mind raced restlessly, dissecting each tiny shift in her behavior. Emily was no longer the woman who had left days earlier. She had returned changed, revitalized yet disturbingly unfamiliar. And I, helplessly watching from the sidelines, felt a profound fear grip my heart. Whatever had changed her threatened to drive a permanent wedge between us. Days slipped by in a blur of unsettling changes. Emily's detachment continued growing, leaving me feeling increasingly helpless. Conversations became brief exchanges, lacking warmth, reduced to daily practicalities. Each evening, she became engrossed in her phone, often smiling privately at messages I was never allowed to see. Then, on a chilly Thursday afternoon, our neighbor Clare waved me down from her porch. Clare was elderly, kind, yet notoriously observant, a combination I usually appreciated. "Michael," she began hesitantly, "I don't want to pry, but I've seen someone visiting your house recently. A man." My pulse quickened uncomfortably. "A man? Are you sure?" Clare nodded solemnly. "Quite sure. Dark hair, well-dressed, drives an expensive-looking black sedan. Emily seemed to know him. She welcomed him inside a couple of times while you were at work." A sudden, sharp wave of nausea twisted in my stomach. "Thank you for telling me, Claire," I managed calmly, despite the storm raging inside. "Probably a friend visiting from out of town." Back inside our empty home, Claire's words echoed hauntingly. Emily had never mentioned any visitors. Suspicion festered painfully within me, though I desperately wanted to dismiss it. That evening, I watched Emily carefully. She wore a fitted, elegant dress I'd never seen before, her hair styled meticulously. "Where are you going?" I asked, keeping my voice casual. She hesitated slightly. "Dinner with Sarah and the girls." I remembered her earlier conversation, the same excuse she'd used previously. Doubt tugged at me sharply. "Emily," I pressed quietly, "who's been visiting you while I'm at work?" Her reaction was immediate and defensive. Her eyes narrowed, a flush coloring her cheeks. "What are you implying?" "Claire saw someone," I explained, controlling my tone carefully. "A man in a black sedan." She stiffened noticeably. "Daniel's been visiting. He's an old friend from Springfield. I didn't mention it because it wasn't important." "Daniel," She'd never mentioned him before. Not important enough to tell your husband? She sighed impatiently. We're just catching up, Michael. He was my best friend in high school. Is that so strange? Why hide it then? I countered quietly, feeling helpless anger rising. She stepped back, grabbing her coat defensively. I'm not hiding anything. I just didn't think it mattered. She walked swiftly toward the door, leaving me standing helplessly behind, heart pounding furiously. When the door clicked shut, I sank onto the couch, overwhelmed by confusion and dread. Emily's defensiveness only deepened my fears. Something had changed drastically since her reunion, and Daniel, whoever he truly was, had clearly awakened feelings she was now unwilling or unable to share openly with me. Sitting alone in the silence, I felt painfully certain of one thing. The woman I'd trusted implicitly was slipping away, leaving only shadows of doubt and fear in her wake. The suspicion Claire's revelation triggered consumed my thoughts. Days and nights blurred into restless anxiety as Emily continued her increasingly distant behavior. Her explanations became shorter, her gaze evasive, and our conversations empty. Each secretive text message intensified my fear that our marriage was spiraling out of control. Desperation forced my hand. Late one evening, alone in my study, I dialed the number of Vince Morgan, a trusted private investigator I had previously worked with professionally. The call felt surreal, my heartbeat heavy in my ears. Michael, Vince greeted calmly. What can I do for you? I need discreet surveillance, I replied softly, barely recognizing my own voice. My wife, she's behaving strangely, meeting someone. I need the truth. He hesitated briefly, sensing my unease. Understood. Give me details and I'll handle it discreetly. After providing information, I ended the call, feeling both relieved and ashamed. Hiring Vince felt like crossing a moral boundary, yet the alternative, ignorance, was worse. 2 agonizing days passed without updates, each hour fueling my dread. Emily maintained her facade, but I saw through it, noticing tension in every careful movement she made. Finally, Vince's call shattered the strained silence. I have something, he began gravely. My heart clenched painfully. Your wife has been regularly meeting a man named Daniel Harper. I've captured images confirming their intimate relationship. His words felt like physical blows, leaving me breathless. You're certain? Unfortunately, yes, Vince replied gently. Moments later, photos arrived, each image cutting deeper into my soul. Emily laughing warmly with Daniel at dinner. Emily embracing him outside an upscale cafe. Emily kissing Daniel deeply, openly, without shame. Betrayal burned within me, raw and brutal. My marriage, our trust, our dreams, collapsed beneath the undeniable truth staring back from each photograph. That evening, I faced Emily quietly as she returned home, pretending I remained unaware. Watching her pretend everything was normal only deepened my pain. Everything okay? She asked, noticing my silence. Yes, I lied softly, controlling my voice carefully. I wasn't ready to confront her yet, not until I decided precisely how. She smiled briefly, disappearing into the bedroom, leaving behind traces of unfamiliar perfume. Alone in our living room, I struggled to breathe, each inhalation tainted by deception. That night, sleep was impossible. Staring into the dark, I replayed every moment, dissecting Emily's choices. Her betrayal felt personal, purposeful, devastatingly cruel. Yet beneath my anger simmered profound sadness, the quiet realization that the woman I loved deeply, passionately, irreversibly, belonged to someone else. By morning, I knew clearly what I must do. Emily had chosen deception. Now I had to choose dignity. Regardless of the cost, I would confront her with undeniable proof. Our marriage had unraveled silently, but the ending would be unmistakably clear. I chose Friday evening for the confrontation. Each second of waiting felt agonizing, the photographs from Vince burning a hole in my conscience. I laid them carefully on our dining table, evidence of betrayal neatly arranged, a silent jury awaiting judgment. Emily arrived home, stepping into the quiet tension filling the room. She glanced at me uncertainly, sensing something wrong. "Michael, is everything okay?" she asked softly, setting her purse down carefully. "No," I replied, motioning quietly toward the photographs. "Not at all." Her eyes fell onto the images, widening in shock. Color drained from her face. She reached out instinctively, fingers trembling as she picked up a photo. Her breath quickened, eyes darting back to mine. Fearful, cornered. "Michael, please let me explain," she began desperately. "Explain?" I interrupted quietly, forcing control into my voice. "These photos speak clearly enough, Emily. You've been lying to me from the moment you came back from Springfield." Tears sprang to her eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you. Seeing Daniel again stirred old feelings. I was confused. I made mistakes." "Mistakes?" I echoed bitterly. "You lied repeatedly. You chose Daniel over our marriage. That isn't confusion. That's betrayal." She sank slowly into a chair, face buried in her trembling hands. "I'm so sorry," she whispered brokenly. I didn't know how to stop. I stared at her, feeling numb, as if watching our lives crumble from outside my own body. The depth of her deceit hurt more than anger ever could. "Do you love him?" I asked finally, my voice barely audible. She hesitated, eyes locked onto mine, pleading for mercy I couldn't grant. "Yes," she admitted softly. "A part of me always has." Her confession shattered the last fragile remnants of hope I'd foolishly clung to. I felt empty, exhausted from fighting a battle I hadn't known existed. "So, what now?" she asked quietly, voice quivering with sorrow. "Can we fix this?" "I don't see how," I replied honestly, pain heavy in each word. "Trust was everything. You broke it completely." Her tears flowed freely now, grief overtaking her defensive posture. "I don't want to lose you, Michael. I know I've ruined everything, but please, can't we find a way back?" I looked away, heart aching, desperately wishing forgiveness was simple. But Emily's betrayal was too deep, the damage irreparable. The woman I had loved, trusted, cherished, she was gone, replaced by someone who had willingly destroyed everything we'd built. "No," I said finally, firmly yet sadly. "There's no going back." She stared silently, devastated by the finality of my words. For the first time, there was complete honesty between us, a raw, painful clarity. Quietly, I turned away, leaving her alone at the table, surrounded by photographs of her deception. The painful truth had finally surfaced, undeniable and cruel. Now, only silence remained, alongside the bitter realization that our marriage was beyond saving. Days passed painfully after our confrontation, filled with a chilling silence neither of us dared break. Emily stayed mostly in the guest room, emerging only briefly, eyes always red from crying. Our home became a place of ghosts, memories haunting each room, mocking the love we once shared. One evening, exhausted from avoiding each other, I knocked softly on her door. "Emily, we need to talk," I said gently. After a long pause, she opened the door, face pale, eyes filled with pain. "Yes, we do." We sat in the living room, distant as strangers, each waiting for the other to speak. Finally, I broke the silence. "I spoke to a lawyer," I began quietly, my voice hollow but steady. "I think we both know where this is heading." Emily's eyes filled again. She nodded slowly, resigned. "I understand." A long, painful silence settled between us. Memories filled my mind. Our wedding day, lazy Sunday mornings, whispered promises we'd made under moonlit skies. How had it come to this? "Do you love him enough to risk everything?" I asked finally, needing closure. She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Daniel represents something I lost, something I didn't realize was missing. But now I see clearly that I've destroyed the best thing in my life. Her honesty cut deeply, yet I appreciated it. We can't undo what's happened, I whispered, struggling with tears. Trust is broken. Our marriage, it's over. She nodded, crying silently. I never meant to cause this pain. I just wanted to feel alive again. It was selfish, wrong. I'll regret it forever. Her remorse brought no comfort, only deepened my sadness. We both failed somehow, I admitted, weary and defeated. We stopped seeing each other clearly. She looked away, thoughtful. Do you think there was something we could have done? I sighed softly. I don't know. Maybe we missed signs, got comfortable, stopped appreciating each other? She wiped her tears gently, nodding in painful agreement. I wish I could go back and change things. I wish that too, I murmured, truth heavy in every word. We sat quietly then, mourning our lost future, painfully aware our love had died slowly, silently, long before Daniel entered our lives. His arrival had merely exposed hidden fractures already present beneath the surface. Let's make the separation amicable, I suggested finally. We owe ourselves dignity. Emily met my gaze, genuine gratitude softening her eyes. Yes, let's do that. In that quiet moment, despite our pain, something meaningful passed between us. Understanding, acceptance, forgiveness in its simplest form. Our love was beyond repair, but perhaps we could salvage our respect. We parted quietly that night, retreating to separate rooms, knowing our lives together had ended. The difficult conversation had concluded peacefully, leaving behind only quiet sorrow and a painful clarity. Our story, once beautiful, was now complete. 2 weeks after our conversation, Emily appeared unexpectedly at my office. Her expression was tense, her movements uncertain. As she closed the door behind her, anxiety filled the small space between us. Michael, there's something else you need to know, she began quietly, avoiding my gaze. My pulse quickened. The idea of further revelation seemed unbearable. What is it, Emily? She hesitated, taking a shaky breath. I'm pregnant. Her words landed like a physical blow, momentarily stealing my ability to speak. A whirlwind of emotions overwhelmed me. Confusion, anger, sorrow. Is it mine? The question emerged sharply, uncontrolled. Emily flinched at my tone, eyes filling with fresh tears. I'm not entirely sure. The timing, it could be either yours or Daniel's. The floor beneath me seemed to shift, my world spinning violently. The possibility she carried another man's child was devastating beyond words. I need certainty, Emily, I whispered hoarsely. We need a DNA test. She nodded slowly, defeated, clearly expecting my reaction. I understand. I already scheduled one for tomorrow. The following days stretched endlessly, a painful waiting game for the results. Emily moved out temporarily, the distance between us now physical and emotional. Each silent hour deepened my torment, my mind consumed by fear and resentment. When the results arrived, I held the envelope with trembling fingers, heart hammering in my chest. Opening it, I scanned quickly, the printed words stark and unambiguous. Paternity test result, negative. Probability of Michael being the biological father, 0%. The paper slipped from my grasp, landing softly on the desk. Daniel was the father. The revelation destroyed any remaining hope of reconciliation, cutting the final fragile threads binding Emily and me. That evening, Emily met me at home, pale and anxious. Her eyes searched mine desperately as I handed her the results silently. She read carefully, tears immediately filling her eyes, spilling unchecked down her cheeks. Michael, I'm so sorry, she whispered brokenly. I stood rigid, overwhelmed by exhaustion. Anger faded into a dull ache, profound sadness settling permanently within me. There's nothing left to say. She stepped closer, pleading quietly. I never intended any of this. Hurting you, destroying us, it wasn't worth it. Intentions don't matter anymore, I said softly, pain evident in my voice. What's done can't be undone. Her shoulders slumped heavily, the full weight of her choices finally clear. I know, I've lost everything. Not everything, I replied, steadying myself, trying to maintain dignity. You still have your child, and you'll have Daniel. She shook her head gently, fresh grief filling her eyes. I lost you, Michael, and nothing will ever fix that. We stood silently, accepting the devastating finality. Emily's betrayal had reached a point of no return. Our marriage, hopes, dreams, all irrevocably shattered, leaving behind only emptiness and quiet resignation. Our divorce was finalized quietly, without drama or bitterness. Emily moved permanently out of our home, leaving behind only faint memories that haunted every empty room. The life we once envisioned dissolved like smoke, leaving me alone to navigate unfamiliar solitude. In the months following our separation, I immersed myself deeply in work, seeking distraction from relentless memories. Evenings became the hardest, filled with echoes of Emily's laughter, the quiet comfort of her presence, now forever absent. Friends tried gently drawing me back into normalcy, inviting me to gatherings I consistently declined. The idea of explaining my failed marriage seemed unbearable, humiliation and sadness mingling painfully within me. Occasionally, word reached me about Emily and Daniel's relationship. Their romance, built upon secrecy and nostalgia, quickly unraveled under the realities of everyday life. Oddly, I felt no satisfaction, only a dull sadness at further confirmation of the damage done to everyone involved. One quiet afternoon, while sorting through belongings, I discovered Emily's old journal. Unable to resist, I leafed through pages filled with hopeful thoughts, forgotten dreams, and quiet reflections. Her handwritten words stirred deep, conflicting emotions, bittersweet reminders of happier times. Near the journal's end, she'd written a simple note dated shortly before the reunion. Sometimes I miss who I used to be, before life became predictable. Those words struck deeply. Had our life become too comfortable, too routine, allowing cracks to form unnoticed? Was it complacency, rather than active betrayal, that truly destroyed our bond? Weeks later, Emily called unexpectedly. Her voice trembled softly over the line. Michael, I wanted to say I'm sorry, again, for everything. Thank you, I replied gently, sincerely. Anger had faded, leaving behind only a quiet ache. I never appreciated what we had, she continued sadly. Now it's too late. Her remorse, though sincere, could not rebuild what was lost. Still, it provided a measure of closure I desperately needed. Emily, I said calmly, finally ready to move forward, I wish you peace truly. She paused, emotional. You deserve happiness, Michael. Please find it. The conversation ended quietly, our final goodbye offering mutual forgiveness. Hanging up, I felt lighter, freer than I'd felt in months. Slowly, I reconnected with friends and activities I'd neglected. Life regained small sparks of joy, moments of genuine laughter, the comforting warmth of friendship. Healing came gradually, though scars remained forever etched into my heart. Standing one evening on our porch, watching the sunset illuminate our quiet street, I realized something profound. My life had changed irrevocably, yet hope lingered quietly, waiting patiently for me to embrace it again. The story of Emily and me had ended tragically, but my story continued, ready for new beginnings. And perhaps, after all the pain and loss, that simple truth was enough to finally move forward.